Hello, random stranger. So, before we get to the really meaty stuff, I want to say that stretch of episodes from episode 7 to 9 was genuinely impressive in that they were so full of real conflict, the kind without a clear right answer. Is Taki making the right calls? Are Reina's standards too strict, or are they just what the band needs? Where do we stand with that really weird tension between Mayu and Kumiko? You and I may come down more in a particular position, but it's also, I think, quite easy to follow the logic of almost every person in these arguments and be like, I may not fully agree, but I do understand where the other side is coming from, which is amazing. I think the writers really understand that most conflicts are complicated. They don't come from one person being right and then everyone else being thick. Instead, it comes down to people with different personalities and values and emotional stakes all colliding together in a given situation. We have a lot of ground to cover because we're going to try and understand everyone's views on all of the conflicts that cropped up last time, but we'll ease into it and start with something that I didn't know we needed, which was the very, very welcome reappearance of Mrs. and Mrs. Natsuki and Yuuko. When Natsuki and Yuuko stepped into that practice room, honest to God, my heart fluttered. It was just the right emotional levity we needed before things got quite heavy. I loved every single damn thing about the scene, so we're going to break down every second of it. I'm glad that we got to see them out of their uniforms because through their clothes that they chose to wear, you see their distinct personalities more clearly. Natsuki wearing her crossbody bag and the cut denim jean shorts, just the picture of an effortlessly cool badass. Whereas as Yuuko, with her huge hair bow tie, I guess that she always had, and a very fancy cream ruffled blouse with a long pink skirt, just very classy looking. So they're both so different and yet so compatible. But the most important detail was the fact that they're wearing matching hair clips. Yuuko tried to fob it off and freaked out when she was caught out for basically being obsessed with Natsuki, but it definitely goes both ways. So really, Yuuko, it's fine. I love the jab that Natsuki made at Yuuko, how she said, "you idiot," 3 times in a single breath, because it was the perfect joke and compliment all wrapped in one. Made a point about how Yuuko is an exceptional trumpet player with really good breath control, while also teasing her for being so embarrassed about being in love with her. Actually, before that, there was also the small detail of how Yuuko snapped back at Natsuki, "Well, you were the one who said we only had today to visit," revealing that they are so thoroughly entwined in each other's lives that they instinctively just coordinate their schedules. I love them so much. I think that's how you write a great gay relationship. Just show 2 people who naturally and understatedly became the preeminent default and presence in each other's lives. The catch-up itself was a joy to watch. What's so great about the dynamic between Natsuki and Yuko and the others is how it contextualizes how far our characters have come. These were 2 people with whom, when Kumiko was a first year, there was a bit or, a lot of tension. Yuko was Kaori's fiercest defender and saw Reina as a kind of vicious snake, while Natsuki was the senpai that Kumiko worried about displacing and, offending. Now, in this scene, when they walked in as a unit, Kumiko's reaction was it's just immediate. She was surprised, happy, and almost relieved. She called out their names before she could stop herself, and they both turned to her with such warmth and a fondness. Later, when it was just the current leaders and the ex-leaders, minus Shuichi, and Yuko was asking these sharp questions about their chances at Kansai and then at Nationals, Reina responded almost like she was giving a report to her CEO, very on brand for her, but you could also feel the affection between them, which would have seemed like a miracle back in season 1. For Kumiko and Reina to get that kind of genuine support from both Natsuki and Yuko meant so much to them, and I just love seeing them there. Let's talk more about how, for me, Kanade has become this season's most quietly compelling characters. Beneath that prickly exterior is someone with a sharp, sharp mind who really deeply cares. So when Natsuki and Yuko were bickering like a couple, it was Kanade who called them out for creeping out the first years. It was a funny moment, but also one that reminded us of something Hibike has been doing since season 1, which is to gradually humanize the senpais, showing that the senpais that the first and sometimes second years look up to with a sort of starry-eyed wonder are also in fact just people. They are also messy, flawed, and occasionally quite ridiculous people. And then you have some people who never experienced that initial senpai reverence phase, like Kanade. I feel like she and Reina are alike in that way. Neither of them bought into the senpai worship to begin with, but that doesn't mean that Kanade doesn't genuinely respect her senpais. She clearly respects the hell out of Natsuki, like that mature, easy attitude of hers. Kanade just won't ever say it out loud. When Natsuki and Yuko were handing out snacks to everyone, Kanade made a point not to join in, and it read as someone who deep down wants to be part of things but can't quite let herself to take that step. Later, when Natsuki made a comment about how everyone's grown up, everyone except Yuko, that is, the camera cut to Kanade walking past, and she's eating a snack, and not just any snack, as Hofatel very astutely pointed out. It's the same cola candy that the two people she secretly hero worships are eating. So she'd snuck back into the room to take a candy when she thought no one was looking. That's Kanade in a nutshell. She won't let you see her wanting something, but she'll find a way to have it anyway. I thought that was a really neat way to contextualize Natsuki's comment about being grown up, which comes from the vantage point of someone who's already made it to the other side, who can look back at the things that they felt they needed to hide or that felt so significant or frustrating at the time, and now see them clearly for what they were, just growing pains that made them a better person, but that are now also firmly in the past. That's the advantage of age and experience. Kanade isn't quite there yet. She's still in the middle of it, still figuring out how and how much to let people in. I also really liked that blink and miss it moment that Kanade had with Motomu, where I think he just shared with Midori the painful story of his sister, and Kanade, who seems to know everything, because of course she does, she sneakily left a can of soda for him. And again, that's just Kanade. She won't let you easily see that she cares about you, but she does, like a lot. That's why I found her measured, carefully controlled response to being cut from the competition band quite touching. She basically held herself together for Kumiko's sake, knowing that her president was struggling with losing the solo to Mayu, and was like, look, I'll just tamp down my own hurt and be there for her. When Mayu made that totally crazy suggestion to not swap seats with Kumiko, even though now she's a soloist, which we will talk about later in detail, explaining why Mayu really shouldn't have done that. Basically, she forced Kumiko into an impossible situation. Kanade was the one who called that out. She stood up for Kumiko even while swallowing her own disappointment. Those are the actions of someone who cares so much that they'll put on a really brave face and won't let you see that it cost them anything. Speaking of protecting Kumiko, I want to make an unreasonably big deal about this scene at camp when Kumiko and Mayu were talking about how everyone should just try their best and may the best player get the solo. And in comes Kanade with her choice words, warning Mayu not so subtly that her queen Kumiko is too nice for her own good and will draw the short straw if you let her. All the while, just weirdly, the shot was focused on these sausages. But if you look closer, Kanade is actually taking the longer sausage, as if to threaten Mayu with, Kumiko may go easy on you, but not me, Mayu. Me, Kumiko's sworn protector. I'm always watching over her, and I don't draw short straws or short sausages. Okay, no one ruin my party and tell me that they're actually both the same length, because I won't believe you. Let's talk about auditions and Taki's decisions, because this is where things get really spotty. Everyone has an opinion and no one is entirely wrong. I don't think anyone could say that Taki clearly made the wrong call, but it's also hard to say that he clearly made the right one either, which is why it's so hard to break down, but we're going to try anyway. Taki's decisions after the second round of auditions were pretty significant. He cut the youths down from 3 to 2, which meant Kanade misses out, and then added a fourth tuba. He also gave the youth solo to Mayu over Kumiko. The thing that made this interesting from a storytelling perspective was that we didn't hear any of the auditions. We didn't hear, for example, Kumiko or Mayu play back to back, so we can't really evaluate Taki's choice the same way that we were able to with, say, the open audition between Reina and Kaori. And that's deliberate. You know, the show puts us in exactly the same position as all the students. We have to go based on trust or on the bits and pieces of clues that we can piece together afterwards, which means that our own conclusions as to whether Taki made the right calls are, in and of themselves, reflecting our values. Do we trust the system? Do we trust Taki? What do we value more, keeping peace in the band or taking certain risks to potentially increase their chances of making it to nationals? And the students landed all over that spectrum. You know, they each try to look at this objectively, and all of them make some fair points, but they also bring their own personal biases that may color their views inevitably. Not surprisingly, Reina has 100% faith in Taki. You know, he knows best, but there's also a blunt practicality to that, which is that if the band starts losing faith in Taki, it will affect their performance as well. Hazuki lands somewhat close to that. She has faith that Taki is still choosing people based purely on skill. And I feel that GLYC2 had a really good handle on why she might be so strong on that. They wrote, "It's such an awesome moment for her, even if it's short. I think her viewpoint resonates with me the most. After all, despite working so hard for the past 2 years, she's failed and been rejected both years. Imagine how it would feel that after all that effort and years of rejection, you finally make it, but it turns out that Taki has arbitrarily decided to not base the auditions purely off of skill and what would make the band sound the best, and is instead favoring the third years for the sake of avoiding conflict. That she didn't actually get in because she worked hard and got good. I can't imagine how awful that would feel." That makes complete sense to me. Hazuki needs to believe that the system is fair, that her hard work counted for something. Maybe her view falls on the idealistic side, but it also comes from a genuine place and a not unreasonable place. Also, it wasn't just her. Tsubame as well read the results as proof that Taki doesn't play favorites. Then there's Midori. Midori has always been a Banff double bassist in the band. She's never had to worry about auditions given she's always a shoo-in, which I think actually gives her a relatively clear-eyed view because she doesn't have a personal stake in what soloist decisions are made. She's also very musically gifted, which makes her opinion, to me, in this particular situation, carry a bit more weight. Actually, the two characters whose judgment on musical ability that I trust the most are Reina and Midori, and they ended up landing on opposite sides, which really didn't make things easy. Reina thinks Mayu is just as talented as Kumiko, which obviously hurt Kumiko when she said it so matter-of-factly, but I think it was honest, and that Taki must have a rationale for choosing as he did, while Midori thinks, given how Kumiko and Mayu are skill-wise much the same, in the interest of preserving band cohesion, Taki should have kept Kumiko on as a soloist. So they essentially agree that Kumiko and Mayu are neck and neck skills-wise. So they then make a different kind of argument that isn't about whether Mayu is a substantially better player, but more about what else goes into making the band successful or keeping morale up. When the two people whose musical judgment you trust the most cannot agree, that tells you something about just how fine the line actually was. And then there was Shuichi, who just flat out said that he's not convinced that Kumiko is worse than Mayu and that it was an unfair decision. But he was also honest enough to recognize later that he may also have been speaking out of a deep concern for Kumiko and a personal knowledge of how hard she's worked, and not from a purely objective musical assessment. And then he apologized for it, not because he was wrong to want Kumiko to have kept the solo, but because he understands that Kumiko just can't afford to hear things like that right now, not from him, not when she's the one who has to hold the band together and who has to be that steady presence in a band full of now very emotionally volatile people. If Shuichi has had any arc this season, and it's been quite a subtle one, I think it would be learning to support Kumiko's responsibilities instead of adding to the weight that she's already carrying as president. It was actually Kanade who explained Taki's choices in a musically logical way. I just kind of love how her brain works. So dropping a youth frees up a spot for a fourth tuba, which matters more now than ever because they've lost Goto, their most experienced tuba player, and because Ryosei, the band that they need to beat, has a whopping 5 tubas. If you want to compete against that fat bass section, you need more weight in your own. As Kanade said, it's a matter of balance, although her ability to reason it out didn't then mean that she automatically agrees with it because she doesn't. The point is, these instrumental choices weren't arbitrary. It's not like they came from nowhere. The show, I feel, has been laying the groundwork for a few episodes now. The bass section had been discussing how many tubas would make the cut before camp auditions, which was when Kanade confirmed that Ryosei had switched to 5 tubas. And remember, we found out during the Yuuko and Natsuki scene that they have to beat Ryosei in order to advance to nationals. Taki had also signaled moving in the direction of a bigger bass sound earlier by picking Suzume over Satsuki, prioritizing the group's collective dynamic range over individual technical skill. So the pieces were all there. It's just that none of the students or us really have that broader view of the whole chessboard that Taki does. This shift also really hasn't been explained to the band at all, which is becoming a big problem. So does this mean that Taki is no longer selecting parts based purely on talent? And the honest answer is it's nuanced. I think talent is still the primary criterion, but when two players like Kumiko and Mayu are almost equally skilled, and that word almost is key because it could honestly just be by a knife's edge. Other factors start to tip the scale. For example, what does the conductor need? Like, what does the piece demand? What will it take to beat this specific school who has these specific strengths and this specific sound? Depending on what's required, those other factors start to matter too, on top of who is the most skilled individual. Putting together a competition-worthy band is a complicated process, and I think the frustrating thing really is that it's Taki's silence and not necessarily the decisions themselves that is corroding the band's trust. The episode where it was announced that Mayu and Kumiko had the solo was called Melancholy Ostinato, which I kind of read as another potential clue as to why Mayu got the solo over Kumiko. In music, an ostinato is this repeating pattern that holds steady beneath everything else that's going on in the piece. It doesn't develop, it doesn't transform into something exciting. It just stays the same and adapts to the other more exciting parts. And I assume, in addition to being an analogy for Mayu's personality, it's also Mayu's way of playing the youth. She's consistent, she's reliable, and she produces the same high quality sound every time. Reina observed that when she said how Mayu has this talent for figuring out the kind of sound that Taki needs and delivers it every time, just like how she adjusts herself socially to make everyone around her comfortable. Kumiko, by contrast, has been receiving notes from Taki, whereas Mayu hasn't. So by implication, Kumiko probably isn't as reliable every single time. She may be almost as good as Mayu, may even have even more emotional variance in her tone and more, interesting interpretations of the music. But variance can be a double-edged sword. It could make a performance extraordinary, but it could also be the thing that cracks under pressure. So Taki chose the ostinato, the steady, reliable voice over the one that, may be slightly more exciting, but is less reliable. There's a quote that I first heard from Julie Andrews, but it's a common quip amongst musicians, and that is, amateurs practice until they get it right. Professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. That's possibly the distinction that Taki might be drawing between Kumiko and Mayu. Kumiko is still in the territory of getting it right. So yes, she's improving. Yes, she's taking on board feedback. But if Mayu's already in the territory of not getting it wrong every time, then it would make sense for Taki to pick her. At a regional or a national level competition on a single high pressure day, that difference matters enormously. You want the performer that is more of a guarantee. You want the ostinato. There's also something melancholic in that, which is like the other half of the episode title. An ostinato supports the music, but it never becomes the main melody or, as we said, the exciting part. An ostinato, for all of its incredible steadiness, is also a kind of restraint for the person who's playing it. Musically, an ostinato may not be amazing, but at least it's stable. If we relate it back to Mayu, there's something sad about how she's always perfectly what the situation requires and what other people want her to be, and never quite more than that. But we'll come back to Mayu's personality because there's a lot more to unpack there. All that said, none of the doubts that were brought up are unreasonable, not Shuichi's or Kanade's or Mizore's. And that's just the nature of competitive music. There is no guaranteed path to victory. There's no move that you can make that is risk-free. So as a conductor, you just make the best decisions that you can based on the knowledge available to you. Taki made the choice to go with a bigger bass sound and a more stable youth soloist, but at the cost of disrupting band dynamics and morale. Whether that trade-off pays off is anyone's guess. Now we get to the really complicated issue of what the hell is going on between Mayu and Kumiko. I think we do have to give credit to Kumiko. She made genuine efforts to reach out to Mayu to treat her as more of a friend and a rival. So at the pool, she took the initiative to talk to her. She complimented her on being kind and approachable. But then Mayu said she does all of that really just to get along with everyone, not because she feels inherently or strongly about being kind. The choice of camera shots during this conversation said a lot. So when Mayu was explaining her behavior, the shot cuts Kumiko out entirely. There's just Mayu and that huge empty space next to her. So even surrounded by people, she is alone. Then when Kumiko asked if she means that she'd rather not be kind to everyone, which isn't the case, it's just a complicated, in between. It's Mayu who's cut out of the frame. The disconnect is heavily visualized. They are conversing, but they're genuinely unable to understand each other. So what is going on with Mayu? Based on what we were given, it's not that she has low self-esteem. It's more the absence of a strong sense of self. So there are no deep likes or dislikes driving her and how she interacts with other people. So wherever the wind of other people's preferences blow, there she goes. What was really revealing was the way that she interprets Liz and the Bluebird, which was an unexpected callback to the movie. Her interpretation is unlike how it was taken by both Nozomi and Mizore. So she said, Liz is really selfish. I can't understand why she was so fixated on the Bluebird. To recap the story, so Liz is lonely and then a Bluebird transforms into a human girl to be with her. Eventually, Liz learns to let her go because she loves the Bluebird enough to want her to be free, even though she'll become lonely again. Nozomi identified with Liz, whereas Mizore ultimately identified with the Bluebird. So her journey was about learning to accept that being let go by Nozomi was more an act of love and not abandonment. For Nozomi and Mizore, at the heart of the relationship was the fixation, the all-consuming clinging to the other person. The ambiguity was more over which role in the story they played, who was Liz and who was a Bluebird, and then what that then demanded of them. Mayu, however, rejects the entire premise of that relationship. She sees Liz's intense attachment to the Bluebird as fundamentally uncomfortable and wrong. So instead of asking herself which character she identifies with more, like am I Liz or am I the Bluebird, she steps outside of that construct entirely and asks, why would anyone attach themselves to or build their whole emotional world around another person in the first place? So she acknowledged that taking that view is not the norm and that no one would ever love someone who isn't like that, who doesn't find attachment to another person or a thing natural or necessary. That line, like the whole Liz and the Bluebird callback, helped me understand Mayu and her worldview a lot better, because in critiquing Liz and the Bluebird, she was also recognizing something painful about herself. The fixation and the obsessive attachment and the inability to let go, those are the things that make love recognizable as love to most other people. And without those things, people just assume that you don't care, that you don't have love. And Mayu knows that she's someone who won't cling or fixate on another person or a thing, say a solo part. So by her own logic, no one would love someone like her because she doesn't exhibit what most people recognize or conceive of as love. Even if she loves in her own quiet way, people don't see it as that. Just to reinforce that point, as she was explaining all of that, she was taking a photo of the contrail. So the the tracks or the trail left in the sky by a plane that has already gone. It's something that is present for a moment and then it disperses. It's the perfect image of how Mayu moves through relationships. She's there, but she doesn't imprint herself onto someone else in like an attached kind of way. It wasn't a big stretch for Kumiko to then see herself in Mayu, because the earlier version of herself was also detached and therefore not bothered by anything really, including losing a really important music competition. But I can't help but feel that the comparison doesn't quite hold if you dig just a bit deeper, because I think Kumiko's detachment was more a protective shell that she'd put in place subconsciously after having been hurt by past experiences. So when Reina finally cracked her shell open, all the passion and the ability to fixate on things, to really care about winning gold, etc. Everything that Kumiko had been holding back, it all just came rushing out. Whereas Mayu doesn't feel like someone just waiting to be unlocked by her own Reina. Like she may just be someone for whom love and attachment work differently to most other people, which is fine. I mean, ironically, Kumiko projecting her own past self onto Mayu is exactly the thing that Mayu was critiquing. Reading another person through the lens of your own emotional experiences instead of actually seeing them as they are. I don't know, maybe more backstory will come out later that Mayu did have similar hurtful experiences as Kumiko, but honestly, I like the idea that we have a character who's just wired differently, who doesn't experience intense attachment as most other people do, because, humans are diverse after all. So is Mayu's way of being and of viewing relationships actually healthy? And I honestly don't know. And also because I don't want to pathologize her, because not every less expressive, less attached person is secretly suffering, and the show doesn't frame her that way either. When she said, "I don't like being in pictures," and then joined the group photo anyway, you could read it as her just doing what she always does, accommodating what others want. But at least she told Kumiko that she preferred not being in photos. Pure people pleasing behavior would have just said nothing and joined the photo, I guess. So maybe there is something more there than just automatic compliance. Maybe it is the beginning of my finding her own way of belonging that doesn't require the fixation that she finds so uncomfortable and baffling about other people. A lighter, less clingy way of being with people that is still being present with them. And I think that would be a meaningful arc for her. Or I don't know, like later she mentioned that the one photo she was in didn't develop properly. And it's kind of implied that she took it out herself. So maybe Mayu really is at peace with moving through life in the same way as that lost photo, present for the moment, but not preserved in it. And if that's true, then the right response isn't to pity her or to try and open her up. It's just to accept her for who she is. The question I can't quite figure out though is Mayu really content, or does she just not know how things and how relationships could be any different? And I don't think even Mayu could answer that herself. And it's that uncertainty that makes her an interesting character. There seemed to be this vicious cycle where Mayu would keep looking for ulterior motives from Kumiko, which made Kumiko uncomfortable and wary around Mayu, which then, restarted the whole cycle again. It started after the pool party. Mayu interpreted Kumiko's invitation through the lens of, why would someone who stands to lose their solo to me go out of their way to include me? And so the most pragmatic explanation to her is that Kumiko is sending me a subtextual message of, look, we're on the same team, so you also should do your best at auditions just like everyone else, so that we're judged fairly. And on one level, that's fair enough. Mayu is the type to look for the underlying logic of a gesture, and in this case, she did hit on something real. Kumiko is her direct competition, and Kumiko knows that Mayu is her direct competition. So the invitation to the pool isn't happening in a vacuum. However, finding something real underneath someone's gesture doesn't mean that you've found the whole truth, because there's a lot more going on with Kumiko than just that competitive subtext. Kumiko is a genuinely warm person. She does have the desire to do the right thing. And there's also something else. Kumiko is probably also trying to prove to herself that she can be the kind of person who extends kindness to someone who might take something important away from her. And I actually think that makes Kumiko admirable. All of those complex motives can be true at the same time. That doesn't make Kumiko's motive compromise. That's kind of just Kumiko being a living, breathing human being. A compromised motive is when there's like this ulterior purpose that undermines or that taints the gesture. Like, say, if Kumiko were just being friendly purely as a manipulation tactic, which isn't the case. Toby R2000 put it really well. They wrote, I think Mayu's bad faith interpretations of Kumiko's actions towards her are definitely rooted in her poor sense of self and how she believes no one could love her that way. It's a weird cycle Mayu has found herself in where she believes no one could love her like this. Yet when someone tries to reach out to her, that very mindset twists the intentions of the other person and to affirm what she believes in. It feels like she ends up overcompensating because of this cycle she's in and hence comes off as less approachable. And like you mentioned, unable to read social cues as well. Yeah, and just to add another layer to the social cues, like awkwardness, I think what made Kumiko uncomfortable isn't that Mayu was interpreting her actions wrong. It's that Mayu flattened something genuinely complex into its most transactional reading, and it kind of put Kumiko in a bind, in the position of either having to defend a motive that she wasn't even fully conscious of herself, or to have to sit with the discomfort of having her motives reduced to something overly simplistic. And from that point on, Kumiko is understandably wary. She has to second guess how Mayu might interpret her every move. So by the time we got to the bath scene, both were already on guard. Mayu asked something that she'll keep asking a million times later, which is, should she forfeit the audition? Kumiko held the line, but Mayu just kept pushing harder. Like she wanted Kumiko to, just drop the act and say what she really feels. And then the part where I really thought she'd crossed the line was when she kind of just blurted out, that's just you being polite. Because Kumiko wasn't just being polite. She was being honest in the only way that is consistent with everything she's believed in and tried to build over the last couple of years. She fought to make Kataoji meritocratic. She knows better than almost anyone else in the band what it cost when the band favored seniority over skill. So when Mayu dismissed Kumiko's repeated insistence for a fair audition as just politeness, that wasn't just being unfair, that was accusing Kumiko of not meaning the thing that she spent her whole high school band career building. To me, what Kumiko was in all of this was just like remarkably human and kind. I honestly don't think I would have had the same kind of patience as Kumiko did. Of course she wants to solo. She also believes that Mayu should be allowed to compete for it fairly. She's trying to hold like both of those things at once. She keeps like swallowing her feelings, keeps trying to do the right thing, keeps reassuring everyone and Mayu that she's okay with it. And it does cost her quietly each time. So I'm really not surprised that after so much pushing, Kumiko also kind of snapped. Okay, this is something I want to go over from a musician's perspective as someone who's played in orchestras before. So after the announcement that Mayu had gotten the solo, Mayu turned to Kumiko and suggested that they don't swap seats. Now, if you don't know how orchestras and bands work, that might sound considerate, but soloists always sit in the seat closest to the conductor. That's just how it is. It's not a convention that you opt out of because you feel bad about getting the solo part, which is why when I first heard Mayu say that, I was like, what? That is the worst possible thing to say in this situation. Because by suggesting that they stay put, Mayu really put Kumiko in an impossible situation. Either Kumiko doesn't swap and looks like a petty bitch, or Kumiko insists on swapping and then has to reassure Mayu again for the 50th time while already feeling exhausted and freshly just hurting from the disappointment. So Kumiko chose the second option, but really she shouldn't have had to make that choice at all. And then on the stairs, Mayu brought it up again, and then in the same breath was like, oh, do you want to hang out? So here was where I was doing the internal goat scream like that. And look, I don't think Mayu is malicious. I genuinely don't, but she has very little read on when she is pushing too hard. What Kumiko needed in that moment was space, not another conversation, not having to reassure Mayu again, not another offer to swap, just space to be angry, at Mayu, at herself, at the circumstances that arranged themselves so that the system that she helped build was the one that cost her the solo in her final year. Even after all that, the bath, the stairs, the conversation that she had with Kanade, and then the conversation that she had with Shuichi, where Kumiko kind of had to reassure them that she was fine, Kumiko was still defending Mayu in front of other people. And then Mayu came to her again, needing to be reassured just one more time. So I lost count of how many times Kumiko had already said it. There is a version of this story where Mayu is the villain, but she's not. It's not this story. She is someone whose good intentions keep producing bad landings, who can't read the room. I think there may also be something to say for Kumiko perhaps not giving enough consideration to Mayu's situation. She is the new girl who is being pitted against the very popular president. So maybe the real problem is Kumiko too easily brushing past Mayu's concerns, but also Mayu trying to bring it up in ways that just makes everything worse. They're both a bit blind to what the other person actually needs. There are so many holes in our Kumirei ship. It's so absolutely ironic that after I had just finished gushing over how strong Kumirei is, we then ran into the part of the show where it takes a really hard look at the friction that runs right through their relationship. Firstly, their personalities are night and day. Reina is someone who, if she wants something to happen, makes it happen. There's no ifs and buts about it. So she asked about the Bond Festival because she wanted Kumiko to be proactive about spending time with her, to pursue her just once without being hit over the head with a huge hint. She'd already bought a matching swimsuit for the pool before Kumiko had even thought about thinking about it. Meanwhile, Kumiko is just the epitome of the useless gay. This difference between Kumiko and Reina also rears its head when they're talking about their future plans. Reina already knows what she wants, and she wants Kumiko also to go to music school with her, but also is frustrated that Kumiko seems to be delaying even this very important decision. Reina is just constantly waiting for Kumiko to catch up to her. This dynamic between Reina's quickness to decide versus Kumiko's reticence also bled into how they each handled the audition fallout. So in the leaders meeting, when Reina asked what Kumiko thinks, Kumiko just smiled and said, I'm with you, Reina, but it really wasn't genuine agreement. It was more deflection. She hadn't arrived at any solid conclusion yet, and Reina recognized that immediately, which is why she got so upset. She doesn't want to be just agreed with. She wants Kumiko to actually take a stand. And then as Reina walked away, there was the shot of her hair just flowing dramatically behind her. It's the same image that the show reserves for moments when Reina really hardens her resolve. And for it to appear not before a performance, but during an argument with Kumiko, it was as if it was saying, Kumiko growing a spine and making her own damn mind about things matters to Reina just as much as being the best does. Which made the bridge scene one of the more painful ironies of this season. Kumiko finally took a stand. She pushed back on Reina dismissing every person who has questions as a whiny baby, and argued that people who don't understand Taki's reasoning can't be expected to just trust him blindly. And Reina, who has wanted this whole time for Kumiko to just assert herself, completely dismissed it by calling her a failure of a president. The very moment Kumiko did the thing that Reina's been wanting her to do, which is to grow a spine, Reina decides that, nope, that's not what you should do with your spine. You know what? It's not just Kumiko. They are both very useless gays. There are two of Reina's blind spots colliding here. One, she can't separate her judgment of whether Taki's doing the right thing from her infatuation with him. So anyone questioning him is either wrong or weak or both. Two, she genuinely cannot understand why people who have a problem with the audition outcomes can't just work harder. To be fair to Reina, like trust in a conductor is very important in the band. And also the new audition system that they set up, as stressful as it's been, has raised the performance level of the band. Even Georgie had to admit that Reina was right about that and he hated it. So the problem isn't Reina's principles, it's that she applies them without accounting for the human cost. And when Kumiko tried to name that cost and address it, Reina just accused her of being part of the problem. I think Reina owes Kumiko a big fat apology because I was fully backing Kumiko on that bridge. Which raises a question, should Kumiko just kind of get up in front of the band and make a big inspiring speech? Back Mayu publicly, remind everyone that nationals is and has always been the goal, and just draw a line in the sand. Cut through the gossip and, the sideways looks by just naming the situation out loud and then putting your presidential weight behind pulling people back in line. It's not a crazy idea, and Kumiko does have the credibility for it, because sometimes visible, strong leadership is exactly what a fracturing group needs. And to be honest, it's probably something that Yuko would have done. I don't know. I mean, there is also no guarantee that a rallying speech would work either. There's also maybe something to be said for Kumiko's particular kind of leadership, the way that she works through problems by having these individual deep conversations and just caring for people. So it's a quieter, slower kind of leadership, but maybe it reaches people in ways that, big public speeches don't. Finally, I just want to voice appreciation for the scenes that we get with Kumiko's family. As usual, Kumiko is feeling slight pressure from her family to decide on her studies already, but it's not too bad, really. I mean, it's still the old line of like, just find a stable job, which I guess for a parent who can't see that their kid has any ambition whatsoever is a pretty normal thing to say. Also, it did not come from her dad, which was interesting. Kumiko also has younger sibling privileges. So she has an older sister who went through a really tough time, who was forced herself to please the parents by choosing something that she really didn't want to do, and then had to find her way back from that. Kumiko actually has someone who can validate her desire to do something that she wants to do, even though she has a really funny way of showing her appreciation for Mamiko. I also love seeing the restored, healthy relationship that Mamiko has with her dad now. Like sometimes things with our parents can be better later when we're much older, but it's not easy and it does require work to be done on both sides, the kid and the parent, to meet halfway or at least to put the past behind and try to do better. The fact that they still meet together as a family is already so much better than how other parent-kid relationships end. Like, I know a few people who have no relationship with their parents or it's very minimal because of disagreements that they had in the past. Often when parents were really super strict and came down hard on the decisions that my friends had made, and that just kind of blew up their relationship. Even after so many years, the relationship never quite healed. So to see this very healthy family dynamics play out on screen is very satisfying. If you guys are ready for episode 10, here we go. Oh man, I wonder if Kimiko is going to ask Taki the question and whether he's going to give her an adequate answer. I don't know. Anyway, here we go in 3, 2, 1, play. Ugh, Kumiko. Kumiko's trying so hard. Asuka, we need you. We need her realness to just like snap everyone back into shape. I mean, I wonder if we're gonna meet the other, like, ex-students, or if it was just, like, Natsuki and Yuko. She wants to know about the solo. Mm. He's probably got all these spreadsheets on his computer. That's so weird. Shuichi. Hmm. I mean, I think in his own way, Taki kind of answered. It's just, what we were talking about before, there's just no 100% guarantee for winning. You just do the best you can. Oh, right now. It was them. Was it? Now I'm questioning myself. Oh, yeah, okay, that's right. I mean, it's also partly individual responsibility too. I feel so bad for Kumiko. She's like one in the one hand trying to restrain Reina, but then kind of getting what Shuichi is saying. Don't fight in front of the kids. I mean, I don't think Reina really cares at this point. Kanade, did Kanade just stop Mayu from like doing the whole why don't you just take the solo Kumiko thing again? I love Kanade so much. Oh, Kanade. They're still not going home together on the train. Reina. Everyone's not you, Reina. He would agree with Kumiko. Really? I mean, that's Reina making an assumption about everyone, though. Why do I feel like Reina is really not getting it? Like, I don't see the problem with Taki just explaining his reasoning. This whole blind faith in Taki is really it's really making Reina difficult. Maybe I'm missing something. Not that she's completely wrong, but still. Who's that though? Answering. Ah! It saves money. And she's cleaning for her as well. Oh my god. Oh my god, they're totally married. Oh, I bet those flowers are because of Cody too. That's not an Asuka thing. How did she know? Oh my god, Asuka is like prophetic. But Cowdy also just read her like an open book. Yes, you should get relationship advice from like the number one gay couple in Hibike. Oh my god, I miss them so much. No glasses though. Oh, there are the glasses. Ah! uh, so easy for Asuka. She's just goading Kumiko though. That's what she always says about Kumiko. It's not necessarily. You gotta be comfortable with like ambiguity and uncertainty. Mm. I mean, he could also explain confidently. Not my problem. Oh my god, she knows her so well. Cody's like, how do I make Asuka just be straight with me? Ah! Ah! Best decision you ever made, Kumiko. Just like visiting Asuka and Cody. Oh, when Kumiko gets running, we know it's a good thing. Yeah, just let out the frustration go. mean, that wasn't Raina still being a bit standoffish. I guess it depends on what Kumiko's gonna say. uh, okay, she's got the first step done. She's got the VP and the drum major on her side now. So whatever is her decision, they'll back her. That's important. That's my taking photos. I don't know, just that blur? Oh god, it's the competition already. I thought she was gonna talk to them. Now? Is she gonna talk to them now? I'm so nervous. Yeah. Mayu, that was such a nice thing to say. Oh god, I can't. Oh my god, she is gonna do it now. I thought she meant like a few days before or something. Ah, good, 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 good. This breaks the tension. That's great. They're all on her side. Good move. Shuichi's face. It's like she's a mess, but she's our mess. Mm. Reina, Reina, stand up. Okay, good. She's like, I mean, I don't think it's wrong, but okay. Oh, that's good. Kanade. Uh, uh, Mayu's gonna kick ass, I know. A true president. Oh man, that got me. That really got me. Honestly, it doesn't even matter if we don't actually see their performance at the prefecturals. Uh, I so I'm still getting over the fact that we saw Asuka, who is living with uh her official wife, Kaori. I think look, you know that we're gonna do a full-on second by second breakdown in the next video, but the thing that I got firstly from Asuka and what Kumiko was able to receive from her was that at this stage in the competition, at this level, there really are no 100% right or 100% wrong choices. Not Taki picking Mayu over Kumiko because obviously they're like, again, neck and neck. But maybe he was just like, oh, look, I'll just try this because Mayu really has been playing like 100% no errors recently. I'll just go with her and see how we go. Like, not the decision for the execs to make it um, 3 auditions instead of just the 1. I mean, they didn't know whether that was going to really work and push everyone. I mean, it did work in the end because clearly they've gotten better than they were last year. But even that wasn't a sure choice. And Kumiko did apologize for sort of the turmoil that it did cause a bit, but it was all done in service of the goal that the entire band themselves had picked, which was to win gold at nationals. So everything that Taki does, all of his decisions, everything that the executive team has decided to do differently this year, it's all been to win nationals because clearly something didn't quite click in the last 2 years when they didn't. But then what I thought was the most brilliant was the fact that Asuka made the point that Kumiko may not be right all the time. In fact, sometimes she's dead wrong in Asuka's eyes, but what really counts is the conviction with which Kumiko says things and the fact that she just blurts whatever it is on her mind. And the very act of seeing just how raw she is about her feelings, that she's not really hiding anything, is what convinces people to take her side. So when she did that in front of the whole band, just before their competition performance, by the way, which is so risky, it worked because everyone could see that this is really something that she believes in. Taki's decisions, her exec team's decisions, everyone's decision to practice harder this year, it's all united by the one goal, which is to win gold. I actually think she managed to marry the logical bit with the emotional bit. So the apology, even though she didn't have to make it, and it wasn't something that, say, Reina would have thought of doing ever, but it worked in the sense that it ameliorated the hurt and the confusion that people were feeling. They saw that she was genuine in how these decisions had affected people, but still was able to appeal to their ambition to win. Yeah, it was so good. I'm also so sorry that I couldn't just suppress the squealing during the Asuka and Cody scenes, but yeah, just let me process that for a bit, and I'm sure I will rant about it next time. Okay, straight to episode 11. I mean, I have no doubt that they're gonna sail through prefecturals, so we'll see what other drama awaits us, and hopefully maybe more Asuka and Cody. Please, please, gods. 3, 2, 1, play. Asuka's so good. Just like how she knew what to say to Kumiko to get her not to do the thing that she would advise Kumiko to do, but basically to face the challenge in the way that only Kumiko can. Okay, also credit to Reina, even though I don't know, it was weird because in the last episode, I don't think I really agreed much with her, but in the last moment where she stood up with Shuichi and Kumiko and did the apology bow, like she did put down her, it's not pride, her principles, which are normally unbendable. And she was like, okay, I said I'd back Kumiko on this, whatever she chooses, and I am backing her. So credit to her for that. I don't know. I if we're looking forward to like actual nationals, which I'm sure they will reach, the issue of like whether it's Mayu or Kumiko who's going to be soloist, I don't know anymore. Oh god, now I'm like doubting whether they're even going to get to nationals. Is it done cold or not? What about Ryusei? I was like, it's so tense. Okay, so they've made it as far as they did last time. Actually, actually don't remember. Did they even make it past the prefecturals last time? Hmm. I don't think they did. Correct me. Oh god. You don't even need even more expectations at this point. Just a whole new generation of die-hard loyals were born during that speech. Oof. Oh, Kumiko. It's okay, she's allowed to feel hurt, you know, she's human. Yes. Okay. Okay, maybe we. No, Raina's still avoiding her? I was like, maybe we can start moving past, the Kumiko and Mayu situation. Mm, mm, which is true. It does sound crazy when you put it like that. Like, why do you work so hard for this thing that happens once a year? It's worth it. Mm. I think Reina should hear that. They're people, not rocks, Reina. Oh, nice, Midori. Oh, wow. That depends on Kumiko, doesn't it? Hmm. Oh, you cut your own pizzas? Ooh. Yay! Mizore! Maybe it's Mizore who will finally get Kumiko to make a decision. I'd like it to be her. Okay, good. Thank you. I was gonna go on a big rant about that. That was so Asuka, the way that she did that. uh, yay! She didn't even go the whole way. It was Kumiko who went. Oh. Oh. ITP, ITP. Okay. They're fine. They're fine. So what other drama can crop up now? He's like, there's too many for me to point out here in this group. Kanade just write that on a music? Oh man, I don't know. It would be a great payoff if Kumiko did get the solo, but you know what? I think what she's doing as president has just as much to do with them getting into nationals. She's saying she's not as committed as Reina. And it helped them win. I mean, people are getting past it now. Yeah, I think that's what, like, she wants the other thing too, but she wants this more. Because she'd always feel like a fake if Mayu just forfeited. I guess we're not past the Kumiko Mayu thing. No. I mean, that was one of my criticisms of Mayu. That's a really good point. Yeah, because this is like at least the 8th time she's done this. I'm glad they did that flashback. Just all those times. What is she gonna do then? Ooh, Kanade got through to her. I'm glad Mayu has Tsubame to just keep her sane. Hmm. Because there's nothing solid to reason against. Oh. Maybe that's what's stopping her from deciding about music school. She needs to know she's good enough to take the solo back. Otherwise, she's like, what's the point? But, Kumiko. Oh my god. She's in a suit. Oh, they all look so good. Where's Cody? And yet. Sad look from Raina. Isn't this the Liz and the Bluebird piece? Oh, look at her. She might also be like picturing herself playing with you, Kumiko. Uh-huh. I mean, she hasn't. Has she decided? Oh, wait, what does she mean? Why was everyone just like not reacting to that? That was so weird. Ah, I'm confused. I'm so confused. Was there something deeply symbolic about them walking across the road with Reina in front first and then Kumiko pushes her from behind? I guess because she's finally made a choice. Oh my god. I'm breaking up with you. It's a preemptive breakup. I think to Kumiko, that's not really, it doesn't necessarily mean that. Oh, Reina. Reina never change. I mean, some things maybe change, but so dramatic. I mean, they have the examples of like literally the senpais that were with them just before. Not all of them are doing music school. Ah, you're my special person. Yee. Wow. Look, I think it was never always just option A, option B. I think Kumiko found option C, which is she will always remain close to Reina, but not necessarily by going to music school with her, which is perfectly fine. I'm still confused about what Mizore said though. Like maybe it was just an honest assessment of Kumiko's abilities. I don't know. Oh, everything's just going so fast now at this point. You know, I simply cannot believe that after Mizore just so bluntly said, "No, I can't see you like being here, Kumiko." Or I don't know if the implication was, "No, I can't see you making it into the school, Kumiko." So, you know, and Kumiko's like, "Okay." And then that was the point where she decided that music school wasn't for her because of what Mizore had said. And then no one else around her really said anything. So it's kind of hard to gauge what the implication was, but if we just take it as face value, it seems that we've landed on Kumiko being real with her the practical implications of going to music school and just deciding that it's not worth it or that there are other things that she could spend time on. Or I don't know, it's weird. I mean, I love seeing Mizore again, you know? I don't know, I'm gonna have to think about that one. I think it's also maybe the show is trying to teach us what the characters themselves are learning, which is that you don't have to get to the specific outcome of all of them going to music school. I mean, especially Kumiko and Reina. This is not a show about fantastical possibilities. It's a show about real life and the hard realities that can intrude. So the reference back to Reina being special, you know, we always knew that was always going to be the case. But whether Kumiko was special in the same way that Reina is, musically, it doesn't matter even if she's not, because the relationship that she has with Reina is special, which goes back to the other conversation that they had last time. They talked about, whether they were staying together or not after they graduate high school. The other thing I really need to think about is Kanade pointing out to Kumiko the same thing that I have mentioned a few times, which is it's just so weird and inappropriate that Mayu keeps constantly offering to forfeit the soli so that Kumiko can take the solo. Would I go so far as to kind of dare to say that in doing so she's insulting Kumiko? Probably not, because I still think that Mayu, she is acting in a way that she can't help. Her extreme need to mold her actions to other people's wants is ironically her being selfish, and she doesn't realize that as such. But now I think Kumiko sees that as well. As to what she's going to do about it, I have no idea. Okay, it's episode 12 and we're finally at the final rounds of auditions. I think regardless of whether Kumiko gets the soli part for nationals, the fact that Reina has already figured out that they don't have to break up and that they can still be girlfriends even after they graduate, and even if she goes to music school without Kumiko, and Kumiko has figured out that she's okay with not going to music school. Really now the only person who I think still hasn't really figured anything out yet is Mayu. And of course her way is to get Kumiko to say that she wants to take the soli, which of course she won't. I'm a little bit on the fence because I feel like we've dealt with this issue for all of this season now, and I have to be honest, every time Mayu comes on screen and is like, should I forfeit Kumiko? Should I give you the solo? It does irk me a bit. But look, that doesn't mean that I don't understand where Mayu is coming from and why she's doing it. We had a whole discussion about that. And so I guess we'll just see what happens. Here we go. Episode 12 in 3, 2, 1, play. I mean, Canada's right. Mayu could just not say anything and forfeit. I mean, I'm not even going to be surprised if we don't hear any music at all in this season. We just have nothing. Yeah. And everyone else has moved past Mayu being the soloist. Kanade. Yeah, I mean, I guess that didn't change. Ah, Chieti. Ugh. Ugh. Oh, no. Woohoo. I mean, didn't see that coming. But Kumiko wants to have this open audition. Ah, yes. That was the option C that, like, I didn't see coming. Mm. Yeah, blind auditions. Smart. Because they didn't do that for Cody and Reina. I guess because Reina was already working against the entire band who wanted Cody. Hmm. That's an interesting admission from Taki. I mean, I think Kumiko suspected, like, not that she could be 100% sure, but I think she knew that if people saw who was playing, they'd probably vote for her over Mayu. So, are you gonna say, is she gonna say, you failed as a youth player? I mean, I think that's the good kind of pressure. Well, who knows? It's Reina pressure, so. Oh no, the conversation. What happened? Ah, Mamiko's so good. I mean, can we know, please? Because we're clearly not as enlightened as Taki and Michi Sensei. Are you any last words, Reina? You know, like the if you don't get the solo, I'm gonna kill you. Ah, Kanade. Kanade picked up the slack. Ooh, I'm really excited. I mean, I don't even know if I could hear the difference. This is a scene. This is the famous Rain and Kumiko scene. Where it happened. Last ditch attempt by Mai to have Kumiko be like, yes, please throw the audition, and then the responsibility wouldn't fall on her. I really get it when Kanade is like, she's kind of trapping you. Mm. Okay, I guess I placed less weight on that too, but she's right. I don't know. I still feel like they're quite different in important ways. Oh, that's true, but also you can't help but do your best because so there has to be some part of her that cares. Yeah, that's what I mean. And so therefore the other person has to be put in a difficult position. Raina, no mercy. Because you sound good. Supame. Yeah. I mean, at this point, like, whatever. Rain, I can see her. Or can she? I can see. Ugh, ugh, this is hard. Okay, so Raina can't see who it is. I think this is the better one. Uh, mm, I think I like the tone better on this one. It's just that touch warmer. It melds a little bit better with the trumpet. I want to listen to the first one again now. Oh, Midori. Yeah. Man, I'm with Midori on this one. I think Kanade knew it was Mayu. Ah! Oh, you're kidding me. Who didn't vote? Mm, I think it's pretty clear. It's Mayu. It's Mayu. What? Whoa, 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 wait, 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 wait. Oh, how? I honestly thought, look, There was, I think, a single rhythmic mistake in the second one, but I was like, compared to the overall tone, the quality of the tone, I would have totally gone with the second one. Okay, I'm never gonna make like judgments on brass instruments ever again. Midori and Shuichi agreed with me. So did so did Kanade. Oh my god, the fact that it was Reina who was the deciding vote. And it's because it was like if Kumiko betrays Reina, then Reina can kill her, but it was never the other way around. Oh my god, I actually think Reina made a mistake. I think what if she voted for oh Kumiko? She's gonna back up Mayu. Kanade is Yuko 2.0. But oh my god, I'm just like, what if Reina was like, okay, the second person was better, but I think the first person was Kumiko, so I'm gonna pick the first person. But then it actually turned out that the better player was Kumiko. Oh no. Okay, regardless, Kumiko is like badass. She's so badass. Reina. Reina is gonna self-flagellate over this so badly. Oh, oh no, it's the place. I think Kumiko's actually fine. It's Reina. He's just gonna fall to bits. Did she though? Did she? I question. So she's saying she knew who it was. She just went for the better player. Oh god, okay. I'm just a terrible judge. Don't ever believe me about anything I say about music ever again. Really? I okay. Now they're just playing with our hearts right now. Okay, I mean, I'm glad that she's like saying what she's actually feeling to someone at least. And I guess it'd have to be Arena. Oh, I'm so emotionally drained. Okay, so we confirmed that Reina knew who she was picking. She wasn't deliberately like she didn't make a mistake, is what I thought what my theory was. Because I honestly thought that the second person who played, I just liked their tone better. Maybe it really was just by a hair's breadth, you know? Now I really want to go look up that like brass nerd that does these videos comparing the different auditions in Hibike and see what they thought. Because I look just based purely on someone who isn't a brass player, I'm a string, so but just based on the sound I could hear and the way that they were phrasing together with Raina's part, I really thought it was the second person, which was Kumiko. Oh god. Okay. You know, I'm glad that they had this big cry out at the end with each other. Reina just absolutely devastated because who knew that everyone else would break exactly in the middle and then she would be the deciding vote. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, let alone have to cut off your girlfriend and be the executioner. And then on the flip side, the fact that Kumiko can just pour out her frustrations and her anger and just like, oh, I could have been better and I wasn't, and I'm sorry. Pour all of that out onto Reina, and Reina just taking that and being like, "It's okay. Like we're still Kumirei." I should put that on a shirt. It's okay. We're still Kumirei. To be honest, I'm just gonna pass the buck over to you guys. If there are any brass players, please enlighten me as to like technique or whatever it was that set apart the first audition from the second audition, or what it was that made Reina be like, okay, yeah, the first one. I don't know. I'm just questioning everything now. But look, another amazing 3 episodes that brought us more reunions, more Yuko and Natsuki, like bickering couple vibes, and Mizore as well. So, I mean, what more could we have asked for? The real highlight, though, of these 3 episodes, honestly, was Kumiko and the way that she's so graciously navigated the incredible stress that was on her to be able to come out and go back to her roots and just say what's on her mind without fear of consequences, as Asuka says, and in doing so, lift up everyone else around her, including Reina, including Mayu, including the entire band. I would say everything Kumiko has done up to this point as president, the way that she's pulled everyone together, the way that she's rallied them so that they can focus on winning nationals. If they do end up winning nationals, then I'd say Kumiko played the biggest and most important role, above and beyond any single soloist or any single person in the band. That's what I truly believe, and I think spotlighting Kumiko's amazing character and how she's grown so much and how she put herself in these super uncomfortable situations and came out the other side even stronger and even better and even more of a leader. I think the show is also saying the same thing, that regardless of competition outcome, Kumiko has already won like the character competition. I mean, there's not a competition, but you know what I mean. Let me know what you think. Just lay it all out there, and we will have a proper yarn about it next time. In the meantime, take care, guys, and have a good week.